called this meeting after we found out some information, particularly about the Children's Rising Center and in conjunction with the East Adams project. And I've asked maybe the Deputy Mayor and Bill to come.
Go ahead.
I'm joined by my fellow councilors, Councilor Williams, Councilor Nave, Councilor Caldwell, Councilor Paniagua, Councilor Gathers, Councilor Majok, Councilor Montel, and Councilor Patrona Jones-Rouser. Obviously, this has had a great effect on the community hearing about this, and sort of the linchpin of the East Adams project. So if we could go through sort of a timeline and what happened here, give us more information.
Sure. It is a disappointing moment for us. And again, for full disclosure, Deputy Mayor of the City of Syracuse, but also serve as the Board President of Blueprint 15. If I can, Councilor, also ask my colleagues who also from Blueprint, Stephanie or Meg, to also help with the timeline.
Sure.
Regarding how we're here. Would you guys step to the mic as well? But they will go through the ultimate reason for us needing to not proceed with the project has to do with construction timelines.
So does it have to do with any funding that was expected?
Which affects funding, yes.
Go on, Councilor.
No, before we do that, I mean, I guess you guys could definitely speak, but can we talk about the timeline first, and then you guys can chime in, whatever needs to.
They're a big part of the conversation is the timeline.
Okay. Okay. Yeah.
Great, this mic right here? Okay, great. So I think I'm gonna start off and then turn to Stephanie because she has all of the details, the thousands of emails if you want to see them, as well as other documents. But I think all of you know I have been many times before this Common Council. The Allen Foundation is probably a little more unique funder than you might think about. We just don't do reactive grant making. We get very involved in the projects that we do. We're really pleased that over the last 7 years under the city administration, in partnership with the city, we have completed the Salt City Market project, as well as now we're working on the Chimes project. So I think most of you know that the work that we try and do is in partnership with organizations, with residents. We don't do for people, we do with people. And in that context, we got involved 7 years ago with the City of Syracuse and the Syracuse Housing Authority to create an entity called Blueprint 15. It was the community quarterback entity that would help with the holistic revitalization of the East Adams neighborhood. So many people had worked so hard to secure the viaduct coming down to almost kind of correct both the environmental and racial injustices in the neighborhood that we were talking about. So it was finally wonderful to say, okay, the viaduct's gonna come down, how that's gonna actually help the people and residents. So we really followed a national model. This type of redevelopment has been done all over the country by public housing authorities. So it's not like we're the first. So we started 7 years ago. We started off on a great path, RFPing for our master developer, and we started down this path about neighborhood redevelopment. And I think one of the key things is that in redeveloping a neighborhood, it is not just about creating prettier public or affordable housing, right? You have to be committed to building the conditions so that the children and families in that neighborhood thrive. How do you do that? By working with residents to say, what does that look like? And over a period of years, starting in actually 5 years ago when Stephanie Pasquale left as the Commissioner of Neighborhood and Business Development for the City of Syracuse and moved over to be a colleague at the foundation, it was with that intent to try and continue to do this development in a national model. So with the residents, we created what became the Children Rising Center concept, a 78,000 square foot facility to be built on the southern end of McKinney Manor, Latimer Terrace. We clearly had a lot of partnership with the Housing Authority and the city to try and make this happen. As many of you know, it includes an early learning child care center, of which the Salvation Army was selected through an RFP process to manage and run. It also included a YMCA that was really important to the residents about youth opportunities, places for seniors. It has a walking track, everything for that. And this concept of a play space for children and families to get supports that they need. So for 3 years, we started down a path with the Housing Authority on the construction and design and planning. We were running parallel process with them. We knew we didn't have site control, but we saw a path to site control. There were lots of opportunities. There are ways that the Housing Authority could have given the amenity to Blueprint 15. There are a lot of ways that this could have been played out. I don't want to go through all of those and digress, but I think what's really important is that we started in 2022, we issued an RFP, we selected an architect, we started meeting with the neighbors in 2023, and we have spent 2 years plus designing this facility. As we were also designing it, it's very clear, anyone who runs a not-for-profit, that the ability for this facility to have debt, we could never have put debt on this, right? So we have to raise the $32 million. The Allen Foundation came out front with a $5 million commitment. It was one of our largest commitments to this. And then we also aggressively worked to get partners to contribute, one of which was also the city through the ARPA funding. But we do have 9 other funders, some private philanthropy, but as well as state funding. And most recently, the CNI grant that the Housing Authority was successful at raising. The problem was, one of the key parts about our financial capital stack was $5.5 to $7 million that was part of new market tax credits. These are tax credits, equity investors. It comes in as money into your project. They go for community impactful projects. They're very hard to get. They're not like low-income housing tax credits or historic tax credits or brownfield. They're very competitive. They are awarded yearly to CDFI entities across the country, and then you have to pitch your project to those CDFIs that actually get the funding. So we pitched this project. They loved it. They loved every aspect about it. They loved that it was part of this whole neighborhood revitalization related to a viaduct. They loved that there was so much support from the governor's office, from the city, from the county. And so we were really very clear that this was a project that was going to be moving forward. All along, we have said to the Housing Authority, and we have so many emails and documents to back up, we need site control of the parcel to start construction on April 1. Partly it's because the new market tax credits, they have a time on them, very different maybe than low income or other tax credits, such that you have a threshold, you have to close, these CDEs have to allocate them within a year. So that timeline was like our final line in the sand. Last March, we have commitments. It was clear that the Housing Authority was not going to be a problem. Even up until August, we're still sending emails. You're aware, the new markets have been released. We're going to go after these credits. This is going to happen. So, over time, essentially over the entire fall, we just kept waiting and waiting and waiting for the Housing Authority, but we kept moving down the path, finishing the designs. We hired we issued an RFP, Blueprint 15, for a construction manager, selected Hayner Hoyt. Everything was ready to start construction. Unfortunately, because of the continued delays by Syracuse Housing Authority, they did not close on their low-income housing tax credits by year end. Therefore, they were not able to complete the HUD process through this RAD conversion. They have not had their closing call with RAD. They are still residents that are living on the parcel Latimer Terrace.
How many?
How many? So the total parcel has 75 units of housing. I think I'll defer to Bill and Lindy to let you know exactly how many are currently residing there.
Bill, how many people live in Latimer Terrace now?
I think no more than 60. On Latimer Terrace, it's about 60 on the total site. On Latimer Terrace, we have how many? About 20.
So I'm sort of interested in, like, Bill, with your conversations with HUD. What was the deal? I mean, there was a certain template they wanted you to follow in order to, like, have HUD agree to move the residents out?
Well, we have a ton of emails as well about communications, but this whole project, from SHA standpoint and from the HUD standpoint, is about residents first. And so, yeah.
Can we see those, please?
Hold on. So it's all about residents first. And as Blueprint 15, when we went through the whole planning process, we had not been approached by Blueprint 15 about being on the McKinney Manor site until after the process was complete with all the community planning and involvement. Eventually, we had them on phase, I think, 2 or 3. They wanted to be moved up. We moved them up. There's emails here saying that they want to expand in size. There was emails here from the city saying that, well, if we're going to do phase 1, the first 25 units of McKinney Manor, then we might as well move all the residents so there's no construction going on around their heads. There was a number of requests on the part of Blueprint 15. A lot of it we were really not aware of and we were reacting to. And every time we had to react, we had to go back to HUD because everybody's concerned about gentrification. HUD's not going to have any approval, any plans without knowing where those residents are going to go in the short term and what they're going to come back to. So most of our delays and adjusting of our project deadlines were requests that came to us. Much of it we didn't know in advance in terms of the lining up of funding from Blueprint 15 until, hey, we got this is our deadline. And some of it wasn't just SHA's fault. We have a master developer who's part of the whole schedule and moving these things forward. But eventually, we have emails too stating, when Blueprint 15 came to us, we want this change our location, we want to change the size of it. All that we had to go back to HUD because it impacted people. And HUD's, going to say we're not going to do anything, approve any plans until we know exactly where all these residents are going and what they're coming back to.
I would just say that there is a practical, logical reason why the project couldn't happen on what really applies to half of the parcel and having the remaining half have buildings on it and potentially residents, to what Bill just said. Why would we do a construction project? And I'm flip-flopping hats right now. Why would the
Which hat are you wearing now?
The Blueprint hat right now. Okay. Why would Blueprint enter into a construction project, doing our project because we had lined up the funding to move forward around property and people? And so, yes, we did come back and say that what has been presented to us as the parcel to be conveyed makes no sense. We should be working on the full parcel. So the change in request isn't haphazard. We want this. It is the practical application of doing a construction project.
And this is all during, I imagine, multitude of meetings, all three entities here.
Right.
Putting it together.
Weekly.
Yeah, so just to be clear, the transformation plan that was completed by the Syracuse Housing Authority and their master developer, McCormick Barron, 5 years ago, had this Children Rising Center amenity on this parcel of land. When they started to go through further development—
The whole parcel, Meg?
The whole, so it was unclear because the parcel was not subdivided at the time. It just showed where it was going to go. It was 2.12 acres that were allocated for this amenity. Then, as they started to do more planning, they showed us in June of 2023, this is where it would go. This was going to be 2.12 acres. This is Latimer Terrace. If you'll notice, they were going to siphon off 9 of the housing units that were not going to be part of the parcel. So you would have 9 families still living here during— So at that time, Blueprint 15 did say to the city and to the housing authority, that's not in the best interest of residents, that makes no sense. Why not subdivide the full parcel, and then that includes what the city would use for the linear park that was also part of the design. That is the only change that we have asked in this whole process.
Okay, that's not correct. You had initially asked for 2-point-something acres, and you need to go to 3.1, and all of this impacted. We have the memos here. This was not the only change.
That is the change I'm asking, though. We went from 2.12 acres to 2.78 acres, and then the city wanted us to also, as part of this land swap, take Blueprint 15 doesn't need to take the full swap. They don't need to take the full 4 acres, right?
Yeah, but what you just demonstrated is that there have been a number of changes, and all these changes have to go back to HUD because they impact residents, and that was the delay. It wasn't any changes on our part. It was the changes on your request.
It wasn't a change on our request, but it was because it did not seem in the best interest of residents or this project
I'm not talking
to
about
have
that one
units.
change. There was a number of changes.
Okay, let's get Councilor Caldwell here.
So where does the city come in with this part? Now, flip back from Blueprint to the city.
That is when, I believe it was Bill, came to us with the idea of the parcel swap. That the whole Latimer Terrace would be swapped for the project for Eastwood Heights. And that is a way that we can get the property under the control of the city so that the city could then enter into a lease agreement with Blueprint. We would
Here's where my
negotiate.
confusion is. Why even mix the two together? Why drag the residents of Eastwood Heights into this whole thing? Why not do it? When I go back and look at the appraisals that we've seen for Eastwood Heights, the first one we saw was 2019. That's when we started talking about actually fixing Eastwood Heights, right? So here we are 6 years later, and I've looked at those appraisals over the weekend. Thrilling stuff. I'm confused why Eastwood Heights, why would we even mix together? Why are we trying to swap one side of town for the other side of town? Why didn't we just work on site control for Latimer Terrace and then put Eastwood Heights in, its own bubble and handle the project separately? For me, it just mixes things together. It doesn't make sense.
So,
And to what you said, Bill, I think who gets hurt here, and I think my colleagues will agree with me, are the people living in these places, because I have talked to the residents of Eastwood Heights, and they're confused.
Right.
Right? I'm confused, so I know they're confused too.
So the reason why we initially applied for the loan, we came to the city back in 2000, I think it was 22, and asked them to convey that, well, first of all, to convey the housing authority, to convey Eastwood Heights to Syracuse Housing Authority so that we can apply for the New York State tax credits. I approached the city to get the building donated to us, and the city recounted back with a request of $400,000, then $500,000, then it went up to the full appraised value of 1.4. We put that in our application with for the New York State tax credits. The application was turned down because there was some environmentals in the building that they wanted us to double check and clean up.
It was environmental. It wasn't, they didn't look at the pro forma and say they couldn't deal with the purchase with that amount being in there. It was environmental. It wasn't financial.
Right. Their initial said there was some environmentals that they wanted us to double check and clean up on. When we put the second application in, that was a time when the reason why we wanted to do the swap, because I came back to the city, I said, listen, if we do the swap, then that's $1.4 million I can put into the project for the residents, and it allows Blueprint 15 to get that property for free. I can make that argument to the HUD. Okay, so the city agreed. The application went in with no cost of purchasing the building from SHA, and we were, pretty much moving along. Now, if it gets a little complicated because in our discussions with HCR, with HUD, there was two approaches that we could take to get the property, but they was going to want to see some really commensurate benefit, and that's when we wanted to make the land swap. It would be of equal value. Back then, we had 1.4 roughly for both properties, and this way, we can avoid paying 1.4 million and putting more of that into the property for the Eastwood Heights residents and getting the property totally for free to Blueprint 15. That was the purpose of the land swap.
I think if I can interrupt you there, I think I want to make sure that we're clear here that the council's responsibility when that came in front of us with that land swap is to make sure that we are getting appraisals on any property that we dispose of, whether that is a vacant lot on Salina Street or a $2.6 million parcel in Eastwood, right? So we pumped the brakes and said, give us appraisals. But am I understanding this correctly? If we wouldn't have done that and would have just gone ahead with the land swap and Latimer Terrace would have been acquired by the city of Syracuse from you, we would be stuck owning land with people in there without HUD approval to actually do anything with it.
No.
And then we would be in the middle of it?
No, incorrect.
I'm correct.
No, incorrect.
Oh, incorrect?
Right.
Okay, so
we would have, Syracuse Housing Authority would have held onto the property until the tenants were gone.
We wouldn't have closed on it.
we wouldn't have closed.
Right.
Okay.
It's just been a delayed closing. So so I think that when it comes down to, and so I don't know if Blueprint 15 is going to go forward with the project or not, but, I came here mainly to talk about the Eastwood Heights project, and that, we have secured $25 million to redevelop that property, put the roof on, the windows, central air conditioning.
I certainly want to talk to you about that. It's in my district, in my
Okay.
neighborhood, so I want to talk to you about that. I'll talk to you for 8 hours. The problem is, this has all been mixed together, so we're forced to talk about all of it together because it's been all jammed together.
Right.
So I think what we're trying to do, and I don't mean to speak for all of you, is actually unjam it all together from being together and figure out what the pieces look like
If
and
I-
make all the residents happy and healthy and safe somewhere.
If I can just speak to how I propose we move forward on what's on the agenda regarding these parcels. The project is not going to proceed at this time on the Blueprint project. We can't fill a $7 million gap to make the project work. So as it pertains to what we're dealing with right now, we should be withdrawing 33, we should be withdrawing 34, we should be withdrawing 32. Everything associated with Latimer Terrace, we should be withdrawing. The council cannot proceed with 31 as written because it puts the two together,
31 would have to, we would,
be amended,
yeah, Joe, we would amend 31.
and 30 could proceed.
Okay, could just go back to one other that sticks in my mind. When did the Latimer Terrace become one piece of property that we could use? Did that already go through the planning commission and zoning and all that? Who proposed that? Did you?
Speak to the Stephanie Pasquale. The re-subdivision process has almost gotten to goal. I think there's still a lien that needs to be filed or a deed that has to be filed. But it did go through the planning commission. It was approved, I think, that October.
Oh, so the planning commission has already done this?
Correct.
Okay.
Excuse me, I'm Brad Hunt from McKinsey Hughes. I'm the counsel for SHA.
Hi, Brad.
One quick comment I would like to make about whether it's necessary to take the Latimer Terrace items off the agenda and look at this separately. I would just want to make sure that everybody understands that the way the land swap is planned and the way the draft, contract documents are drafted, the city would have an option to acquire Latimer Terrace. So that means that the city doesn't have to do it. But as it's currently structured, the city, if you approve the land swap, the city would have the option, and therefore, if in the future Blueprint 15 or otherwise the city decided that they did want Latimer Terrace to go ahead with children's rising, they could exercise that option, and that'd be of a benefit to the city. And on the other hand, if they decide not to go forward with that particular site, they wouldn't have to. But it is, the way it's structured, it is an option, so that would still be something that the city could get by approving the land swap, and it doesn't mandate going forward at the Latimer Terrace site.
Counselor, there is no need for us to enter into an agreement for a land swap if we don't have the intention of closing. We would not close on that parcel without a project.
So Meg, I don't mean to put you on the spot, but so if next year the new market tax credits are available, is there an intent to go for them again and fill the gap to try to make Children Rising happen next year? Are we just on a pause here, or do we, I mean, I know it's hard to answer that because the other $25 million in funding, how secure that is, and
Exactly.
answer however you want to answer or don't.
Meg, can you?
Unfortunately, I think that's the problem, Councilor Monto. It's been a lot of work to get it to this point. A year from now, it would be hard to know. There's so much going on with the current federal administration. New markets were under the CDFI. CDFIs are now being determined that they might be part of DEI. I mean, so there is no, part of this is we knew we had the 4 years of this great Biden administration. It's great that Syracuse was awarded a CNI. It's just frustrating that, so much of this redevelopment in this neighborhood has been so delayed. And now we're going to have the challenge of working with this new administration. So I would have to say right now, it's still unclear. I think the board of Blueprint 15 discussed it extensively at their meeting last week. Just to note, Bill is also on that board, and there was a board resolution that did state that this project is on pause, and it's just unclear if it will be able to move forward ever.
See, I'm mystified that three entities that are like sort of aligned wouldn't have got this done. I mean, in my long time in public office, I've been involved with some very difficult issues as far as like entities, destiny and things like that. So, I mean, there was something, I felt that maybe somebody should have just put everybody together, and that happened a bunch of times, right?
Many meetings.
And I'm still mystified about the HUD thing. I don't understand why we didn't have a solid time frame for HUD to act and a plan that would have satisfied them in order for this project to go forward.
Well, that's because there've been a number of times where Blueprint 15 came back to us with changes on the plan, the size
I think
of
it's
it.
one change,
No,
right?
no, it was not
Just-
one just change. It was not just one change.
Okay, before, and another thing, Councilor Gathers brings this up. If we're going to talk about emails, we want to see them, because they'll become part of the public record too. Okay, everybody's got emails, but this is really irritating as far as, everybody's looking forward to this. This is obviously a linchpin of this whole project. And I know there's a lot of children are going to miss out on the benefits of this.
And Councilor Hooligan, Blueprint 15 has, on a $32 million project, done the due diligence to get designs done, to get $25 million in commitment. The last piece of it was a $7 million gap through new market tax credits. Their timeline is what we're running up against right now, and that is April 1st.
I know you're in a difficult position, Deputy Mayor, because I wear a couple of different hats myself, so I understand that. But I served under Mayor Young and Mayor Driscoll and a few other people, and this thing would have got done. I mean, with proper leadership. I'll be frank with this. This is like really devastating, I think, to that community that we continually
leadership
had
in what?
excuse me, Deputy Mayor. I mean, just a community that's been neglected for a lot of years, and now we're like sort of dropping the ball here.
We can produce all the emails for you. I'm sure the Housing Authority has their documents as well as ours. I don't know if you want to go into all that minutia, because it's a very complicated project, without a doubt. But I do think at the end of the day, this is where it is today, and this is what the Common Council has to work with and make a decision on.
Yeah, and just let me, give a little more context. Particularly, we were waiting. We never, obviously, with the transfer of the land, it was incumbent upon the city to get that appraisal to you. And so, we ended up waiting a couple of weeks on that. But I think more importantly, when people talk about the project I-81, it coming down, impacting residents, SHA has been involved with the I-81 project for over 12 years now. We have worked with them to, provide some of the rationale for going with the street grid. When I asked the DOT for dollars for the residents, they said that they didn't want to provide or couldn't afford to provide dollars for the residents to make the project move forward because it was outside the scope of their arrangements. I met with federal government, city government, a number of meetings that everybody wanted to see this project move forward, and the state has put monies into this. Often Blueprint 15 talks about their $35 million project. This is an $800 million project, and for a long time, we've been making adjustments to our plan to accommodate the Children's Rising Center, and it's really been the tail wagging the dog. Now, this project doesn't have all the dollars that they like to say was modeled by purpose-built in Atlanta. Atlanta had the golf course there, building schools and putting a lot of private dollars into it, making it move forward. In New Orleans, people were moved out to Houston, Texas. There were no people on the footprint. Those projects are not comparable. We don't have that kind of private dollars to cover some of the costs for Blueprint 15 to move their projects forward or to work around.
Blueprint 15 did not ask you for compensation to move our project forward.
I didn't say that.
Commissioner, we have to consider, we're talking about human lives, and there are people here right now, they're probably afraid what is going to happen. I got to move out, and I think we got to focus on the people who live there in those apartments.
And so I'm perfectly happy to bring forward to you today a proposal. We've had this, let me just back up. The Eastwood Heights was given to the city almost back in
62.
22.
22 is when Eastwood High School was
Right,
built.
right. The city, back in 1998, the city asked the Housing Authority to manage that property. It's been 30 years since any investment. We have $25 million to do all the repairs to the building, but we just need, with the anticipation that we would get that building for this land swap. I'm happy to take it for free. The Housing Authority is a public benefit corporation. I don't have $2.6 million to give you for a building that was given to the city over 50 years ago. And we have secured $25 million.
Well, actually, Bill, it was built by the city because it was a city high school, so we built it.
Well, I don't want to go into the history because I know the property was given to you from East Syracuse. But yeah, we don't have, as a public benefit corporation, we don't have $2.6 million. We put the application in for the low-income housing tax credit grant without a cost. I talked to the state just last Thursday. They said, Bill, we're not putting any more money in. And you know, it's 25 million. What we're really talking about here is $25 million all set up and ready to go for us to close. But the Syracuse Housing Authority doesn't have the $2.6 million or the $1.4 million to purchase the building. And so if you want to say, hey, look, Syracuse Housing Authority will move forward with the approval of the closing so that you guys can get the property, and $25 million going to go into the Eastwood homes for those residents that are sitting out here with leaky roofs and windows. That's great. If they want to do something different over in Latimer Terrace for the residents there, that's a different discussion. I'm primarily here to tell you that we have $25 million for the leaky roofs and the windows and improved security, all those things for Eastwood Heights right now, today, and we just need to close. If Blueprint 15 wants to pull out and we want to do something different for support services for the residents, that's a different discussion that could be held on a different day.
For the record, what I propose to the council is to amend 31. I did not say withdraw it. I said amend 31 because the administration, the executive director rightfully says this is about the people. The administration is not standing in objection to renovating Eastwood Heights. It needs the renovation.
Mayor, Deputy Owens, and Mr. Simmons, when did the application go in for Eastwood Heights renovation?
Does anybody know when the application went in?
Can you come up here?
So we knew in 22 that we had to sell this building?
Yeah, so the original application in 22 was for the city, instead of giving it to us, they wanted to sell it to us for the appraised value of 1.4. At that time, for that application, those dollars was included for the sale. In 23, because we didn't get the 9% tax credit award, we put in another application. This was with the land swap, and so the city said, okay, yeah, we're not going to charge you for the building. When we put the application into the state, there was no cost there was no cost included for the building, and and so we ended up getting more money for the Eastwood Heights to put in for services for residents, and that's where we are today with an application that's been approved, a 9% application. They're very competitive. It has been approved for Eastwood Heights. They're ready to close. The tenants are all ready to pack and go and move and do the necessary moving. But the deputy commissioner has some adjustments to the memo. But my primary purpose here today is to move forward and close the building for Eastwood Heights, so we can start that project and make those amenities for that building. If what adjustments they want to make for the new redevelopment of the Latimer Terrace area and that whole area there, I'm open to listen to it from anybody, anywhere, but I'm really here to have a closing and get approval from the council to have SHA get the building for free.
Okay, Counselor, to move forward, everything got to be withdrawn associated with this, and we have to start over from the drawing board. Whatever you decide to do with Eastwood Heights, we would have to start over with a new local law, just so you all can know where we're working from here.
We still don't have an appraisal for Latimer Terrace, correct?
Latimer Terrace is not a...
So we don't even know what we're, any kind of, the swap deal.
Well, we just now said that
So,
there's no
Counselor, I would
swap.
say that we are not doing a swap because
Okay,
despite...
so they're not doing the swap.
Yeah, they're not doing the swap. So with that being said, what I just said is what we have to do now. We have to take everything off the agenda associated, start a new local law, and negotiate what we're going to do with Eastwood Heights with SHA.
Counselor, the reason there...
Well, there's not we'll end up with an appraisal for Latimer Terrace because they're working on it right now.
Well, we should have.
Yeah, we should have one anyway.
I don't know why at this point, if they decide to withdraw everything, Latimer Terrace is not even in the picture, though.
The process for the appraisal is underway, so it doesn't hurt for us to have that.
Exactly.
The purpose for us not entering into the swap is that the city will not close on Latimer Terrace if there's no project.
Yeah.
That's why.
Yeah, that's why I say that's the next thing on the table. Is Eastwood Heights.
So Commissioner, you want to add?
So just a couple, I just want a couple points of clarification. So one, I've also talked to New York State and you know, Bill's right. They're not going to come up with $2.6 million, but that's because it was never asked for. We were approached by the Housing Authority and asked to swap the land. There were conditions that needed to be met. They have not been met. So now we're in a situation that we're trying to address. Counselor, you would talk.
What are the conditions? Can you tell me?
Well, so that the Housing Authority has yet to gain its approval on the relocation of the tenants through the Fair Housing Act is one of the most important ones, but there's a number of steps. I'm not going to try to bore you with all of them right now.
I can give you the details.
The other point, so Counselor, you had talked about leadership. So I just want to point out, the Mayor Walsh created a position that was specific to supporting this, as has Blueprint 15, to supporting these projects. And Sarah Walton, along with Allison from MBS and Pam Degar, who the Housing Authority and SIDA paid for, wrote the grant that got us $50 million. Sarah Walton, again, that position created by the mayor, worked with NISDOT to bring in $180 million, $30 million of it, specific to this project. There has been a tremendous amount of leadership. We haven't had all the action.
Commissioner, I wasn't, what I just am going from my own history. And listen, Meg and Sarah and everybody's done a great job pulling this thing together and doing all the important aspects. But at the end, we're not going to get a Children's Rising Center right now. That's what I'm saying. I mean, the end result is that we're not getting that. We are getting a lot of other things, and we had a great meeting the other day with Sarah and you and everybody else. I know the housing is going to part, but the linchpin was the Children's Rising Center.
And this is devastating. It absolutely is. I don't want us to get lost looking at the bark when we should be looking at the whole forest. That's all.
I don't want to, let me pontificate for a second here, because what ends up happening some of these times is the Common Council gets put in a position where it's neighborhood residents versus us, where they think we're making decisions that affect their lives. At the end of the day, we're not going to get pinned down with this, because this is the most neighborhood-facing Common Council of my lifetime. I will tell you right now, we are activists. We know these neighbors. Marty just went down that road, and I don't know who I'm asking, but someone could raise their hand when they want to answer the question. What do the 20 people in Latimer Terrace think? What does Eastwood Heights think? Who is talking to the people that live in these places and saying, listen, all these commissioners and presidents and councilors are talking all this nonsense, but we are packing our kitchens and wondering where we're going to live in 6 months. Like,
And I don't
that's
think,
the problem.
you're right. And I don't think these tenants are already packed and ready to move, because I haven't heard from them. Maybe they should come up here today and let's have one of them talk.
They would be happy to come up.
One thing I just wanted to add.
Let's get back to the meeting here.
One thing I just wanted to add is, as far as SHA is concerned, we are hoping for Children Rising to be able to move forward. It's just not able at this time at the timeline that they wanted. Children Rising and Blueprint 15 have made, as Mr. Simmons said, made a number of amendments that we've had to go back along with our developer MBS and amend our RAD amendment to HUD. Anytime that an amendment was made, for instance, the first one went from 2.1 acres to 2.8 acres, that was amended. Basically, SHA found out after they made plans and changed those. We found out that they made those changes without basically involving our developer, without involving SHA, and really without involving public input. So we went forward, our developer amended our RAD application with HUD. There was another increase in the site plan that we found out after the fact, went from 2.8 acres to 3.1. That was in June 2024. The increase in acreage for the CRC basically made their dollar amount for the project move from 25 to 31 million. Again, that was done without SHA's involvement, MBS's, who's our developer, who has total development rights to that parcel. All of that was done without coordination with SHA. Again, we had to go back and amend the RAD amendment. All of those changes that were done on Blueprint 15, doing on their own, were done without consideration of SHA. We weren't able to even alert HUD that those amendments were going to happen. So every time it was the tail wagging the dog, we had to amend them after the fact. Blueprint 15 was told by SHA and our developer back, I believe, in September of 2024, that closing by March 2024 wasn't going to be a possibility. So we have those emails, we have these in the packet that we can show you, but I just wanted to just make you aware that all of those amendments, Blueprint 15 potentially pausing, isn't something that SHA wants to happen. We'd like for the Children Rising Center to move forward because it does benefit the people that we serve, and that's basically residents are always going to be our focal point. That's what we want. We want Children Rising to still continue. It's just wouldn't be on the timeline that they wanted to close for these tax credits, which they were told that that wasn't going to happen.
So if I may, it sounds so much of pointing the finger at who's doing what. Is that the packet that has the emails in it?
This is some of the, this packet here has the information as it relates to Eastwood Heights. The packet with the emails my staff has as it relates to communications between SHA and Blueprint 15 and the whole development team. We meet bi-monthly, every 2 weeks. When I say the whole development team, the city, Blueprint 15, SHA, MBS. There's about 5 or 6 groups that meet every 2 weeks on planning and updating. And so oftentimes we would hear from Blueprint 15, we apply for this application, we have these funding dates and deadlines. So I get it that they're applying for public dollars and it comes with some strings attached. But again, when we put into an application for HUD for a certain approval and we have to go back for changes, that's going to take more time.
It starts the process over. In addition, moving folks before having RCC approval from HUD takes relocation dollars, which SHA made very apparent, made everybody very aware that we didn't have relocation dollars. We asked if we had partners that were willing to put in the relocation dollars. We had no relocation to actually move people. That was another barrier for moving forward on that before RCC approval.
Councilors, construction project timelines change. We all know that. Oh, yeah. The unfortunate impact is impacting funding. We know that too. We see that depending on not just this project, any project. That is what's caused the pause for the Children Rising Center. I hope that we can pick it up again and go. It just can't happen right now. And so for the purpose of what you all are faced right now with decisions and what's on the agenda, the project can't go forward right now because we can't make up the gap right now. So we have to take a look. I hope that we can pick it up into the councilor's question, pick it up at another time. Next year, maybe the year after that, I'm not sure. And I can't answer that right now. But for right now, we can't move forward with it.
I understand that, Deputy Mayor. To address Bill's concern, I think maybe Councilor Manto, some of us are willing to help out in some way to address your concerns as far as getting Eastwood housing taken care of. What is the timeline on that, Bill?
We're looking, we can close right away.
No, I'm just saying, how long? I mean, it's going to take a while for us to put this thing together.
Oh, we were hoping to get some type of a resolution from the council in the month of February so that we can close in March because, like I said, we're ready to go. And the longer we delay the Eastwood Heights closing, there are some upfront costs that our contractors have put together that's going to impact us. And it could also impact the tax credit dollar amount.
I think maybe we'll talk on that. Is that okay with you, Councilor Manto? Any other councilors who want to? But
go ahead.
I mean, Bill, obviously, as often was said, and as Councilor Manto just said, a lot of times the council becomes aware of things after things have already happened. So we'll do our best to alleviate that, and I'll depend on help from Commissioner Collins and the Deputy Mayor on this too. And
as Brad, the attorney, was just saying, you guys can do what you want because either way it's going to benefit us, But if you just do if you still have the option, then that gives the property to the city. We're not going to give the city with property with residents on it. We'll hold on to it and get it, and get it all. I think we do have some money now with the $50 million to get it demolished, and so that it's an option that if Blueprint 15 down the road decides they want the land and to move forward, it's there. If they decide not, then we'll plan on something else.
So 20 people in Latimer Terrace. Is there a plan to get the people in Latimer Terrace moved?
So yes, and
what kind of shape is Latimer Terrace too?
Well, Latimer Terrace, it's been up for 30 years. It has no basements, and so while you might drive by there throughout the day, it looks great because we keep it painted and cut the grass. But those buildings have a lot of major repairs that has to happen to that building as well. So while there are 25 residents on Latimer Terrace, but HUD wants to know what's going to happen to all of those residents, where are they going in the short term, and what are they coming back to. I have, for the Latimer Terrace, we have about 40 units in public housing. We've been saving those vacant units to help those residents. And then there's another 20 residents that want a voucher. If they take a voucher, and we're willing to give them vouchers for a voluntary relocation out of our housing stock, because HUD says, I'm not going to give you any vouchers for these residents until we close. And so I'm taking vouchers out of my existing stock to help them move forward faster. Everybody's doing everything humanly possible to move this project forward, but ultimately for HUD and for Syracuse Housing Authority, the residents have to be taken care of. And HUD wants to not only know where they're going in public housing, but if they're taking a voucher, they're asking me for addresses to where these residents are going. There's so much outside of our control that we can't control, that when they come up with a program with a date on there, we try to make it work. If it doesn't work, it's not our fault.
No phases of the project can go forward without a relocation plan for the tenants. That's where it starts.
Right.
No redevelopment, no demolition, nothing can happen without the plan required by HUD that the Housing Authority has to have for every tenant within the footprint.
And once HUD approves your plan, they'll give you the voucher.
So do you have a plan, Bill? I mean, is
For
there a
the-
plan? A plan. We've been talking about this for a couple of years. I mean,
Yeah.
you have a plan to relocate people now?
Yeah, we do have a plan for most of the residents that want to stay in public housing.
HUD's got that plan?
They have that plan, but they know that we want to give vouchers to the others, but now they're starting to ask some questions about where exactly are those residents going, because these residents on McKinney Manor are three and four bedrooms. So it takes a little bit time for that to happen.
So they have a plan for everything?
There is a plan, but the HUD is looking for more detail as to
Latimer Terrace, they got a plan for that?
about those Latimer Terrace. Where exactly are they going? And that's what HUD. Everybody's concerned about residents first. What's going to happen to them? And it's going to take a little time, because when we started this plan 7 years ago, the housing market wasn't that tight like it is today. The private market.
And counselors, for the conversation about Latimer Terrace, which I think is no longer a conversation, but at some time forward, there's always the option for this conversation to happen again.
Yeah.
When there's a project. But there's no project now.
So I just, as I listen here, I think the disappointment is not just for us as counselors, but people that we have put up their hopes that something was going to happen in that neighborhood.
Including the staff of both organizations that wanted to see it happen.
Right. So I think people who wanted to see something new, were celebrating this effort. I think it's a huge disappointment. And my concern at this point, we know that as people who are intimately engaged in this process know that this is going nowhere, right, at the moment.
At the moment.
And what are some of the process to make sure that those residents that had their hopes up so high are engaged and at least are told and educated on what's happening and who dropped the ball? And where is that? Is there a plan to do that, to let them know that this is not moving forward and here's why it's not moving forward?
Well, from the blueprint perspective of the hat again, our executive director and our neighborhood navigators have been on the ground through the process to even describe what the Children Rising Center would be. It is our project, so we will take a responsibility of circling back with the residents to talk about what won't happen right now.
Yeah, because, for some of us that, are very grassroots, as Council Manto has said earlier, that a lot of us here are very involved in the neighborhood. The disappointment that we normally see is not, the disappointment really rests on the idea that transparency of government entity and organization to the people directly is always missing, right? And this got to be corrected, because I was reading about this and I just had to drop it and sit back, because it's an exciting, Meg, it is an exciting project, and I think if since it's not happening, if there's a timeline that need to be developed and be given to the residents, that this is not happening right now and here's how we move forward and getting something need to happen to really figure out this tarnished hope of the people.
I would agree with you, and I think it is very sad. As you can imagine, for my team, for me, there's been a lot of questions like, why could this not happen? Why has this? But at some point, you work on a project for 5 years. You put so much of our time and staff into it, foundation dollars, you leverage that to get other money. And at the end of the day, when there are deadlines and you have to hold people accountable, in 5 years, we have done nothing. And every year, the residents in that neighborhood, whether they're in Pioneer Homes or McKinney Manor, have been talked about, and they have been promised that there would be some redevelopment. And there has been a plan. So why we had the plan, we were working the plan. And I just think that it is complex, but there has not been the leadership and the capacity built for the city of Syracuse for this transformation of this large of a project. And I'll go without saying that.
Yeah.
So,
And just, I came here to move things forward, but when people start talking about capacity and leadership, part of the role of the Blueprint 15 was to help with the private investment, but most of that investment they've attempted to get the dollars from COVID, which had a limited time span on it. They got the dollars from, or trying to seek dollars from the tax credit part, market rate tax credit. These are all public dollars for the most part that have timetables on them and constraints. And when they bring those things to us, that just slows up our process. We already had a process and a plan, and so it's really incumbent for when they talk about leadership and capacity. Really, this project has really been short on maybe some of the private dollars that you do need to move it forward. But we've done everything we can possibly do. And when the Housing Authority came up with the initial plan, which was designed to do it, McKinney Manor first, that was really designed to do it so that the vast majority of the residents don't get moved out at one particular time. We were doing it in a way that the Syracuse Housing Authority budget allowed for, investment dollars. But when Blueprint 15 said we want to be on that location and we want to increase the footprint, we're going to get rid of the public. We want to get rid of the public space that the tenants all agreed to. All that stuff had to be adjusted, and we had to go back and forth with her and adjust to and talk to the residents about that. And that's where a lot of the delays came in.
I think that the back and forth and who did what, I think we got all of that. And today we need to figure out what we're doing with Eastwood Heights, and hopefully Blueprint and SHA can get together in a community setting and address some of these concerns directly with constituents and the residents of that area. We thank you for all of this, and we will dive deeper into all of it, but it's a lot. And I think that what is it going to be, Mike, we need to figure out how to move the Eastwood project forward, Commissioner Collins. So that's probably the next step, if that's a dollar deal or whatever you guys want to do, and then bring it back to us.
no, I'm next. Go ahead. I'm next. No, but I'm next. So y'all can 1 second, please. So I'm going to say this, and I'm full disclosure. Yes, I work for the Allen Foundation. Full disclosure, I'm put it out there now. But we need to know that there's a city piece, there's Allen, and there's a Blueprint 15. We got to separate them, right? That's what I first want everyone to understand, right?
In housing.
In housing, excuse me, I apologize, housing. So when we talk about it, we're linking people up together, and it's not. There's different entities. But what I want to say that bothers me the most, and this is from the dearest bottom of my heart, is that these community where my family was rooted from, one of the first 5 families in Pioneer Homes, has been marginalized for years. And everyone's in meetings every 2 weeks. And it seems like that the project should have been able to make an effort to get forward with everyone together, because we know that this community, we know that these people need better. We know 81's coming down. We know that, I remember listening to my father and all his friends still to this day talk about how if they had a gym, if they had childcare, how their life would be different, how they could just be in a place where it was safe, and it would have just been a different atmosphere for their life. So for this not to be moved forward, and for this community, and I look at Tara and them from day one has been a part of navigating. It hurts my heart because those 2,000 residents in that community loses again. They keep losing. We keep, and I say we because it's a collective, we keep failing them, and it's unacceptable. And it hurts my heart because they don't deserve it, right? So at the end of the day, it seems like that it should have been a situation where, okay, let's go, we got to figure this out, let's come together, let's get more people, let's hire A, B, C, D, so we can get a project together for them. It's not about us. This is not about us. It's about that community. And we failed them again because we didn't come together and add on and ask for help. I need your help. I need your help. I need your help. I need your help to make this happen. And right now we're in here like, no, the people hurt. We going home to our homes. Now they got to go back and tell their kids and their families, their children that it's not happening. And it does affect both neighborhoods because now Latimer Terrace and Eastwood Heights and Pioneer Homes are all looped in. And that's the other part. As a city, if that was something that we knew was going to happen, some of this stuff should have been moving a long time ago. We shouldn't have been waiting to the last minute to say, oh, well, guess what? This is coming up. We got to get an appraisal. The appraisal should have been done a year and a half ago.
How do we get the plan for Latimer Terrace in terms of the plan we talked about so we can all see it?
Well,
is there that plan? You said there's that plan, right?
Yeah, the Blueprint 15 has put together a plan for the Children's Rising Center.
Can we have that plan so we can see? Because I think everyone is concerned where these residents are going. I think it
More
would.
than Latimer Terrace.
Yes,
The whole Pioneer Homes.
Right. Can we have that plan as to where these individuals are getting
It's
moved?
called the East Adams Transformation Plan.
Right. Could we?
So we can
So that the
share-
public know.
Yeah, we
'Cause
can
I
share
think we like I said earlier, as elected official, as public official and commissioners and councilors, we live in this bubble where we think everybody knows, but everyone is lost out there. If you walk into those residents and say, where you going next, they have no idea. And I think as people that goes into the community, it's good to have that plan in some shape or form, not the 500 pages, but something that can be handed out so individuals that want to read can see it.
We can put something together.
Please.
I can't put anything together for the Children's Rising Center. They can give you that.
Right.
But we can, overall plans, yes.
Yes, it would be nice to have that.
Okay, counselors, we got a study session and then a council meeting. I'm going to recognize the lawyer here.
Thank you.
Cabe, what is it?
Brad Hines.
Brad, close enough. Brad, go on.
Brief comment just about how to move forward. We all understand, as the deputy mayor said, that at the current time, Blueprint 15 is not going to proceed with Children's Rising at Latimer, but there is a chance that it could happen in the future. I just want to be sure everyone understands that the documents in your agenda packet that are before you now just give the city a chance to proceed with Latimer Terrace if the city chooses to exercise that option. That's what they do, and if it doesn't work out, the city doesn't have to exercise that option. The alternative is to separate the matters and proceed perhaps to approve the Eastwood Heights transfer at some point in the near future, but not today. If you do that, then the city doesn't have the option to take Latimer Terrace. You could revisit it and recreate the option later. But I just want to be sure that we all understand that the materials before you today would give the city the option, but not require the city to proceed with acquiring Latimer Terrace.
President Pro Tem, if I may, just to go along with Councilor Caldwell's point, us sitting up here, we have to make last-minute split decisions. As we say, I've been hearing dates, I've been hearing timelines about this whole entire project, and when it comes down to it, especially for us making decisions, I need better leadership and better communicative skills from both entities to have to make this move forward.
Yeah,
otherwise, like you said, the ball's dropped. This thing is done.
Okay. So, Counselor, only thing I want to address is where you guys want us to go from here, myself and Law. I mean, it's been put on the table, basically, that the Latimer Terrace deal is out of this. You want me to get with Law and we start talking about what it looks like, or what do you want us to?
I think we'll talk to Mr. Berry and yourself
Okay.
about how we
Okay. All right.
address these agenda items. Okay, there's no other question. I'm going to ask for a motion to adjourn.
Second.